campaign day 2, Orlando, Bordertown Burning campaign run by Glenn, Glenn Means and the guys over in Orlando. Tons of fun, just like last time. Lots of good guys. Tons of fun games, tons of wild happenings and all kinds of cool stuff like that. This time from Tampa, it was just me and Dan actually came with me. Dan, last minute, night before Friday night, I asked him if there was any way I could convince him, and apparently I did whatever was necessary. So he showed up, he came with, we drove together. He rolled his warband in the car on the way to the event, which was really cool. We recorded that ride in that session, so I'll share that as well. And we had a really great time talking about on the way there, talking about all the different things that go into selecting picking a warband for a campaign, and this specific campaign too has a lot of special rules and campaign goals that sort of help influence your selection too, which is, I think, one of the main reasons he ended up going with the Chaos Marauders. There's only one Marauders player, and that's its own separate path along the campaign of available missions or goals or what have you. And so now we've got two Scion of Chaos path followers, and luckily there was also a couple other guys, I think, there that showed up that had not played yet in the campaign. So there's plenty of fresh games to be had. Nobody was, stomped on by somebody who's had 5 games for their first game or anything like that. So that was really cool. That was really cool to see. And I'm glad that he got to participate and get in on it. You've got Zane and Josh, who were hoping to come and they couldn't make it this time. Work stuff comes up, right? So, but we still had a great time, and with another guy in Tampa playing in the campaign, it will be even easier to get extra catch-up games for everybody. Just have another player. Also, Maverick in the group in Orlando, he actually lives between Orlando and Tampa, so he's only an hour away from us. He said he'd be happy to jump on down to Tampa for some games too. So really cool that we get to have that now. So anyway, overall, the day for Vivian's cadre went really well. She did what she does. She got kills all day. She started the day, and I think with around 32, 35 experience. I think 32. And ended the day with 49. We won all 3 games. So that also helped. I mean, she got 6 experience just for winning the 3 games and participating. And then, the rest was kills. She, with that sprint skill giving her a 15-inch charge, she is on top of them like white on rice on a paper plate in a snowstorm. It's really incredible to witness, and she chops people up. I mean, some bad rolling aside, had some where she charged into a small group, and I don't think she landed a hit. I was like, oh no, she didn't do anything at that charge. And then the next turn, she killed both of them. She stunned both. And then the next turn, just put them out of their misery. It was a lot of fun, some exciting games. So the first game I played against Steve. Steve actually works at Coliseum of Comics in Orlando, off of Colonial, where we play this particular campaign. Really knowledgeable guy, really nice guy. He was really friendly. And it was cool to get to play him. He was actually in the Jacksonville tournament as well. And we never played. There was only, I think, 5 games in that particular tournament, so we didn't get to play everybody. So I didn't get to play him. So he challenged me, and I said, okay, let's do it. And we played. I got to pick the scenario, so I chose I think it's chance encounter, the quadrants. So instead of deploying in the deployment zones on opposite ends of the table, the the defending player deploys within 1/4 of the board, or it's cut in half, lengthwise and width, and you play on a quadrant. And then the attacker, which in this case was me, puts all of their units in the opposite quadrant, but they have to be a minimum of, I think it's 12 inches away. I think it was a foot apart from 12 inches away from the nearest enemy model. So Steve rolled up with, I believe, Clan Skyer Skaven. And he did some modifications. So he's, like I said, he's really knowledgeable about the rules. He works at the comic shop. The guy knows what he's talking about. He's been playing the game for a long time. And so he actually modified the rules for Clan Skyer, which is a I think 2B or C level warband. And those aren't generally allowed in this campaign, but he made these modifications so that they're more palatable. Got rid of some of the overpowered stuff, and really balanced them out nicely. And he'd been doing pretty well. Its leader had a decent amount of experience. His champions were pretty strong. He had some carried a lot of warp lock weapons flying around, including the warp lock rifle. This was my first experience against such a weapon. 24-inch range, strength 5, AP3 black powder weapon. So and then acts as a handgun, so it is only move and fire. And I believe it is also shoot every other turn. But man, what a hit that thing packs. At 24 inches, it is certainly something to be scared of. So he had those guys sort of set up towards the back of his quadrant, and then he had his rat ogre, his mechanical rat ogre, in the very front of the quadrant. And he told me, and it was also fairly obvious, that he put that up front to just make sure that I started as far away from his other guys as possible. And I did. At first I actually set up way too close. I totally forgot to even measure to see how far apart we were. And I also, there's a big watchtower in the middle of this board. It's a beautiful board, all 3D printed buildings, tile risers in the middle. I mean, it was gorgeously painted. I love playing on it. The tops of the buildings came off so you could see inside, everything. I mean, it was just phenomenal. Awesome work. It might actually be Steve's board. And it's just incredible. So, anyway, the center contained this really tall watchtower, and he put his ogre in the corner, but it was right behind it. So I actually didn't even see his ogre. So I wasn't even thinking, oh, I might be too close. And we measured, I was way too close. So I moved everything way back, the foot. And when I set up, I set up most of my ghouls and my zombies on the middle, and the middle section was all one big riser with only 2 stairways on either side. And with me and my awesomely bad initiative, I wasn't climbing anything, so I really kind of had to start a lot of guys up there if I wanted them to be able to fight this ogre. So I put about half the warband up there, kind of clumped together, with the necromancer as sort of the lead dog there, and 2 of the dregs. The vampire and 2 of the ghouls and the other dreg. I put that little group in the center of the board, but behind the riser, so almost in like a regular deployment zone that would be on my side. So they're pretty far. But I figured they're fast and they're below the riser, so they'll be able to sneak around, avoid a lot of the firing lines of sight, and hopefully with that vampire's awesome charge, I can do something tricky. So, and something tricky I did do. So he got first turn, and he moved most of his two long rifles, the warp rifles, the warp block rifles, uh, rat guns. Move them all the way to the other flank. So then they're rats, so they're pretty quick. So I thought, oh, okay, that's kind of tricky. I see you over there. He moved his rat ogre up close to the building, like inside the building, so I couldn't see it, and everybody else kind of stayed in place because he wanted to make sure he had lines. He didn't have any lines to say. He wanted to make sure he had shots when they were available. Then I go, and of course we roll a random happening. It's the first my first turn of the game, my first roll of the game. Last time it was the second turn of the game after I had moved. I rolled a random happening, and a bloodletter appeared in my backfield. So that was awful. So already, I've got some high anxiety going. Okay, what in the world is about to happen in my back line here? Roll a random happening, and it's like haunted house type random happening. So you one random model that's inside of a building is accosted by some kind of a scary spirit, and it whispers things in the person's brain, and they run screaming out of the building. And after running screaming out of the building, they make everybody around them kind of panic, and they could break and go all kinds of crazy. And so we thought, okay, well, this could be kind of interesting. But the problem was the only creature that was actually in a building was the rat ogre. And the rat ogre is immune to psychology. Actually, that I say that out loud, I don't think the rat ogre was the only one in the building, but I think it was either random or it had to be the closest to me, and we picked, and somehow his building got picked. Rat ogre, mechanical one, is immune to psychology and immune to fear because it causes fear. And in the rule for this random happening, it specifically says if the unit in the building. Oh, I'm sorry. So I remember now. Any random model that is by themselves in a building. The other units that were in buildings had a friend. The rat ogre was by himself in a building. That triggered to be the rat ogre. He's immune to psychology. He's immune to fear. He doesn't get any effects of this random happening. None of the broken, none of the bursting out of the house, scaring other members. But he is pushed D6 inches out of the building. So by the force of the force or spirit or whatever it is. So he rolls like a 3. He was in the building just in cover, and he moved 3 inches out. Not super exciting. Kind of disappointing. So we asked Glenn, we said, Glenn, we know we're only supposed to get one random happening, but ours was super, super lame. Let us have another one if we roll it. And he said, sure, if you roll it, you can have another one. So unfortunately, we did not roll another one, but we did keep rolling in the hopes of something wild happening. So his rat's pushed out. I take a pock shot at it with my necromancer with the bow, obviously. Almost a waste of an arrow. And I knew it would be, but it was really the only thing I could do. Necromancer at this point still doesn't have any other spells, just the awakening spell, which gives me a zombie when I kill a hero, which has never gone off up to this point. So, and I've just kind of repositioned some of my other guys around so that they'll be able to charge the rat ogre when it gets close enough. Tuck some people into cover so they can't be charged, yada, 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 typical stuff. The tricky thing I did is with the group with the vampires. So I sent the ghouls and the drake that were with the vampire up and around, which is what I kind of telegraphed was setting them up there, because Steve had a couple guys on the left side of the board, which is where my path was. So they moved up, got into hiding in this building and around the corner. But the vampire, she ran 15 inches around the back of the board on the right side, up and forward to try to get to the 2 rats that had gone that way with the board block rifles. or one of them had a Warblock rifle, one had a Warblock pistol, I think. The other Warblock rifle was up in cover in the center, with line of sight to my vampire when I left there. I didn't realize it from my angle. It looked like the platform was probably too elevated and the rat was probably too centered on it to actually be able to see the vampire. But this bitch is tall, so he did see her. He did have line of sight, and I thought, okay, that's fine. Shoot me with that incredible warp rock cannon you've got there. He shoots, and I think he misses. He misses or he fails. One or the other. I think it was missed. Okay, great. He missed. I'm in position to do something, and I'm hopefully out of line of sight of this rat ogre, and I should be okay. Steve goes, rat ogre pops up, charges the zombies, the only thing he could see, and charges Brains. Brains is the only zombie I rock with when I start my Undead Warband, and it's a little kind of greenish zombie with his brains exposed, and I put glossy paint on his brains, so he has brains. Every time you move a zombie as an undead player, you are required to audibly say brains, and that's what I do every time up to this point. So the rat ogre charges Brains and kills him. Brains has only gone out of action like a couple times. He always ends up being so tough and it gets underestimated by everybody. And he ends up getting kills. Always. And I'm always so excited and so proud of my little Brains that he gets these kills, but also a little frustrated too that he doesn't get the experience from it. But at any rate, rat ogre, first kill, first charge, first attack, Brains dies. Just sad day. But Brains was bait. Brains and his other buddy, another zombie that I got for free because I think I found a prisoner and we don't take prisoners. We make friends. So the other zombie was there, also in combat with the rat ogre, but there was some shooting he did here or there, and he failed to really do anything with it. As I failed to do anything with my necromancer's bow. In fact, I forgot to use it both times because, again, in this terrain, it is so gorgeous and beautiful, but it is also dense. I kept forgetting about models, so I had the necromancer tucked behind a wall. I kept forgetting he was there, and then we were to combat, and then, oh yeah, I forgot my necromancer, and Steve was a mensch. I do the same thing for everybody. If somebody forgets to do something, just do it. You could have done it. You would have done it. You forgot. I forget. Do it. I understand some players want to be a little stricter and don't want to do that. That's fine. I'm not going to judge you for it, but I think at the end of the day, it's a game. We all make little mistakes, and I think a little bit of grace makes it a more fun experience for me anyway. So glad that he did that. He let me take my shots. I didn't do anything, so no harm, no foul, I guess. Then we got another round of combat with the rat ogre. I piled in my ghouls, obviously. I piled in my dregs, literally surrounded. Oh, and my direwolf too, literally surrounded the creature. And ended up taking the rat ogre out of action. I think it took 2 rounds of combat to take it out of action. So I was proud of my boys for doing that. In the meanwhile, on that flank where Vivian was hiding, she wanted to go after the riflemen rifle ratmen that had run around the backside trying to flank me. But after receiving a pot shot from the asshole up in the center, Vivian thought, you know what? If you can see me, then I can see you, baby. She, of course, charges. She's got that nice 15-inch charge. She does have to pass a climbing test, which she actually fails. She only fails on a 6. Luckily, she also has a rope and hook for the one out of 6 times she forgets how to hold a rock or whatever. And so she gets a reroll. She rerolls it. She succeeds. She climbs. She chops into bits. I believe he ends up stunned. And the The next turn, she gets charged by another couple rats to try to help their buddy. One of them, I think, fails the charge because of fear test or something like this. Long story short, one rat enters, no rats leave. A rat charges, doesn't hurt her, doesn't hurt Vivian. She attacks back, but she reserves an attack. I think she reserved half of her attacks, in fact, for the knockdown rat. So with her first two attacks on the new charger, she chops him up. Not a problem. Dispatched. Outright. So then, luckily, the two attacks that she reserved, both wound. And that's all that's required. They auto hit a knockdown model plus combat attacks too. And if you successfully wound a knockdown warrior, they're out of action automatically. That's just it. So boom boom. 2 easy rats, toast. Turns out I think both of them were heroes, which is pretty exciting. So after the Rat Ogre's first round of combat, it's still around. Steve moves his leader up. His leader's got a warplock pistol and a halberd, and a helmet, and I think heavy armor. I just know their gear so well, don't I? Isn't that interesting? Foreshadowing. So he runs the rat up there, takes a shot with the pistol. I think it fails to do anything with it. We take out the rat ogre, and I think the leader charged or tried to charge, failed it because of the fear test, or something along those lines. Maybe I may have charged the leader after killing the rat ogre, because I think I actually killed the rat ogre in Steve's turn, so that it was my turn and his leader was out there, taking the win, as they say. And so we charged, and we jumped. So took out his leader. I turn over the comm. Of course, there's an immediate bottle. He lost. I think it was 3 heroes, or 2 heroes and a 3 heroes. Sorry, 3 heroes and a henchman, I think it was. So with his leader and a hero out, and with only I think he only had 8 or 9 of the max warband members. He was done. Totally fair, totally reasonable call. We get into the post game, and I do fine. The direwolf went out of action, survived, and one of the zombies, in fact, I think it was Brains himself, actually died. And Brains has never actually died. Well, he died the first time to become a zombie, but he's never died since then. That was his only death. He's now got 2 actual total real deaths, and it was really sad. But it's okay, because I still have 1 standard issue zombie in my warband, and it's always going to be Brains, no matter what. Those dice can tell me whatever they want. So when Steve rolls, both his leader and his best hero go dead. Remember how I said that I have never had the Spell of Awakening, is the necromancer spell that resurrects your opponent's dead heroes as zombies to fight in our warband. Not only has it never gone off in, I think, 3 campaigns, but it just now went off twice. So I got his leader with the halberd, the helmet, the heavy armor, the warplock pistol, and his top champion with a warplock rifle, I think some other stuff, but that the Warplock rifle is where it's at. So I now have an undead warband with a small unit of zombie gunmen. I'm very rat gunmen. I'm very excited to use these boys at that point. So he ends up having to table his warband. He has to restart a new warband. That never feels great. You never want to do that, but Steve, I mean, he took it in stride. He's been doing this game for a long time. He's a true gamer. He's in it for the story. He's in it for the narrative. He likes to play. He doesn't care that he has to restart his warband at all, and that's awesome. And I feel less bad about how hard I celebrate killing people's heroes now because of his attitude. So obviously great game for us. Get the 2 zombies. It was really pretty awesome. We go to game 2 where I face off against Stefan's Hockland Bandits. Now, I had never played against or seen played Clan Scar's game before my game with him, and I had never before seen the Hockland Bandits play. So I really didn't know much about what I was getting into. And also in the pregame, I usually tell my opponents, don't worry about telling me everything you got. If I want to know something, I'll ask you, and I'll only really ask when it matters. And I did the same thing here. And what was really cool was Stefan actually had a printed sheet. He said, here's a list of my gotchas. Just things that are unusual or maybe probably not things you'll find in the first edition of the original rule set. And he had them printed on a sheet, and it was really helpful. I thought, this is great, man. I didn't even read it, but I could really appreciate somebody doing that, voluntarily. Nobody required that. Nobody asked him to do that. He just has it printed out. He goes, here, you can reference this anytime you want. These are the weirdest rules I got, basically. I thought that was great. Really, I'm playing undead. So the only thing I want to know is who's got range, because I don't want to see them. I either don't want to see them or I want to focus them down and destroy them. So we played Weirdstone Hunt, and we ended up with four Weirdstone on the board, which is pretty decent. He sets up 2 on the upper levels of a rune, and then the second rune that are connected by an elevated platform. And we both alternated placement. We placed them all, evenly and together, and it was pretty balanced. I think most people usually try to balance them out a little bit. You're required to keep them at least 6 inches away from each other, I think, and at least 12 inches from any board edge. Of course, we did that as well. I placed mine. We rolled off to see who deploys first, and I ended up deploying first, and I opted to go to his side of the board because that was the closest access point to the runes that had the 2 upstairs Weirdstone shards. I thought, yeah, I could probably get that with Vivian with her 15-inch run. And she'll get the experience, and that's what I want. I want her to get experience. That's my whole mission in this campaign. I'm the Scourge of the Realm. I need Vivian to get as strong as possible to destroy the Scion of Chaos. Who's going to be like a demon. I read up a little bit more on the Scion of Chaos. They when they progress through the campaign points, they end up turning into some kind of a demon that can fly and gets crazy. So yeah, I need to get some better advancements than leadership, because she now has 2 leadership advancements, which means her leadership is max. Great, super helpful, super exciting. So anyway, he sets up. I set up first on that side. Actually, I think I set up second, but really didn't pay too much attention to where he was. It was a big board, so we were pretty far apart. I just wanted to be able to make sure that Vivian had a direct line towards the first two Weirdstone shards, and I wanted to kind of balance out the sides, and that's what I did. I had my direwolf on the left flank with a ghoul, just because that direwolf can threaten the whole board with that 18-inch charge. And I set up my new rats. I set up the one with the warp block and the halberd on the right, and the one with the rifle I set up on the left in this big tower. This big tower is just outside of my deployment zone, so I had to deploy like at the base of the ladder to it. And my thought was I'd climb up and hopefully be able to see out of the first window. It's a skinny tower, and have line of sight across the port. And it nearly worked out. So I first turn, Hawkland bandits come out. They go straight at a couple Weirdstone shards, and I think they managed to pick up only one of them. The other one would need another few inches. So they have a archer in a tower, but she doesn't really have a shot, and he has another archer on a platform that I don't think has a shot. So I move up. We get clarification from Glenn because in our, we end up confusing these house rules because in our home games, we require that a character stops at something they're going to pick up. They can't pick it up in stride. In this campaign, you can pick it up in stride. It does not. There's no restriction. So with her 15 inches, she manages to get up the stairs to the first Weirdstone shard and through the winding platform, the bridges, to get to the second one. So she ends up picking up two in one big movement. And now she has line of sight to one of the archers and is looking forward to charging them as soon as possible. That plus I think the ghoul and the direwolf on the left flank moving up, especially that direwolf moving up 9 inches and knowing that it has an 18-inch charge. Those two things kind of put a little bit of fear into Stefan at this point. So the guy that ran up to grab the Weirdstone, he runs back, like almost straight back to try to get to his friends because he knows if he's in there, he's going to get charged and die. The rest of his warband kind of congregates towards the middle. They pick up that shard, and the rest of them kind of form a bit of a defensive line and kind of back up a little bit, or they move more laterally than forward at least. I think he takes a couple shots that don't do anything at my zombies, in fact, and he ends up taking one of the zombies out. Now that everybody bring, and that's I'm never happy to see a zombie go down, but I am happier to see a zombie go down than anything else. So my guys that are moving up that right flank, because most of his units sort of retreated or moved laterally, I wasn't going to be able to get off a charge anytime soon, so I just advanced him relatively safely and kept my zombies sort of more exposed as potentially the only targets available. We then, obviously, my second turn, Vivian's charging somebody. She's got that 15-incher. She's coming. And she charges that, or she runs into the building. Actually, this must be turn 3, because turn 2, she advanced into a building that the archer was in, right at the base of it, just a couple inches away. So the archer retreated as best he could, took a shot, didn't do anything. My turn 3 comes up, she charges. I think this is the combat where she completely whiffs. Yes, she charges an archer and completely whiffs. The archer, luckily and obviously, didn't do anything in return. Direwolf even after moving up into some open area that had cover from a tree from the only other archer, still didn't have anything charged in turn 2, which was really crazy. So ended up moving up and getting a charge off in turn 3 as well. So uh, the combat with the direwolf, I don't think. I think the direwolf may have taken action. Not really an important part of this battle. The important stuff is really just Vivian, of course. So she gets in there with this archer, doesn't kill him. She gets charged from behind by one of his other banditos, and decides, obviously she's unaffected by this charge. So she decides she's going to split her attacks again. She's going to put 2 and 2. And she goes out of action. Pop, pop, just like that. At one point, turn 2, when she was in combat with that archer, she didn't put the archer down. And she had one more turn 3 is when she was able to take him out. So there was, in the beginning of turn 2, when she was in combat with that archer, standing right below them was the hero that had managed to grab the other Weirdstone shard, thinking he was safe. And I actually considered trying to escape from combat so that I could do a diving charge on the guy with the Weirdstone. I only had that thought for a minute, and I figured, you know what? Let me just stay up here and kill, because the Weirdstone, I don't really need it. At this point, I've got an Ithilmar sword. I've got most of the gear I really need. The rest is just luxury items. I'm not spending money on anything because most of my guys are surviving somehow. So I stay in combat. I end up killing the 2 on that platform. And the direwolf does get the other kill. And I was upset with that because I did the other 2 combats first. And I knew that Stefan needed to lose 3 before he could bottle, even voluntarily. And so I was really only hoping to kill 2 or even none, because I wanted a chance to get to that Weirdstone. And fortunately, I guess, I don't know, the dog ended up getting a kill. That put him at the 3, and of course he bottled. So it was a pretty quick one for us. I think it only lasted those 3 turns. Another victory plus a couple experience for Vivian. Actually, plus a bunch of experience because she got the 2 Weirdstone shards and 2 out of actions. None of the heroes either went out of action or died, so I didn't get any more zombies. Totally fine. My next game, I played against Maverick. Now, just before I played him, Dan played him. I was, watching their game and paying attention. Mine had finished earlier, and I asked them while they were doing that post game how it went. Maverick had lost his leader and I think a few henchmen, so he was really pretty badly beaten. And he was saying, I asked him, I was like, well, what are you going to do? Are you gonna just re-roll Warband, start over? Because in this campaign, when you start over, or even when you just start the campaign as a new player, you get a bonus 50 gold, and you get 2 experience for every unit. So you start off with basically a level. It's on henchman groups. It's or on certain heroes. They'll start with experience rather. So it's cool. It helps new guys start or guys that got table restart. And he said, I'm just kind of sitting in it. He said something like he's just kind of sitting in this dark place, and he's gonna just play another one and see how it goes. And if it doesn't go well, he's gonna have to restart. I said, okay. Who are you playing? And he challenged me, and I told him, I said, well, that's probably not a good idea if you wanted a chance at it going well. And I tried to offer up or suggest anybody else they have a chance, at least surviving against. And he said, "No, I want to take her. I want to take you. I don't know. I want to see how it goes. I want to see if I can. I want to see if I can make it. If I can survive this, they've the newly nominated leader of the war band deserves to stay. Uh, if not, they'll be replaced." So I agreed, of course, and we went and we played on the first board that we played on, uh, or the first board that I played on, rather. And so because of that, I switched sides. I said, okay, I'll start on this side because I played the other side already. Uh, Beautiful board, but I really didn't have any options. I'd already played on all the boards that I had ever played on, because most of these boards are at Jacksonville, so I played on a couple of them there. And I didn't want to play on my own board, which I had set up for the first time with this campaign. Uh, and I had all the platforms done, and it looked pretty good. I was pretty proud. But I didn't want to play on it because I play on it at all. So I set up. I know he's playing. Maverick's playing Reichlanders. 1A mercenary warband. Love Reichlanders. They're one of my other war bands, other than my primary one is my undead. But I love me some Reichlanders. And he'd gone with a lot of bows, so I knew I was gonna need cover. So I set up all on the lower level, and I tried to be creative with my positioning, but I also knew I had to be set up pretty far forward because we were playing the crater mission, which our crater in the middle of the board, we moved the giant watchtower so we could have a crater instead. It contained 4 weirdstone, and the goal of the mission was to get a hero, yes, a hero, next to the crater, and they would spend their turn basically digging through the crater for weirdstone. And if they roll a, I don't know, I think it was a 3+ maybe on a d6, then they ended up successfully finding a shard of weirdstone. So obviously, turn 1, I ended up going first, and so I found it really interesting. I was expecting Maverick's setup, using all the elevation, using all his bowmen, to try to be able to pick off as many of me as they could to survive, and to maybe try to get some experience. And instead, he set up his entire squad right in the lower level, straight towards the platform's stairway. And he said, it's the only chance I've got is to try to get, because if I don't get anything out of this, even if I survive, my warband's going to be toast. I'm not going to have any funds to replace anybody or get any gear. It'll be too tough. And I'll have to restart. So okay, I go first. All my zombies move forward. All my stuff kind of climbs up into the center. And I try to stay behind the buildings. I keep 1 dreg or 2 dregs on the left flank to go up the stairway over there. And because I had thought he was going to be on, multiple sides here. And I had my necromancer and my zombie rat with the rifle up in a building. They just kind of advanced. They could try to get line of sight. Actually, you know what? He went first, and he just moved his big blob forward. Then I went and did all that stuff. Vivian, turn 1, obviously, 15-inch run. She's climbing on anything but a 6, and she's re-rolling that 6 if she gets it. So she obviously climbs right on up and gets directly at the base of the crater. So next turn, she can try to harvest some weirdstone. So turn 2, Maverick moves all of his units up the stairwell. Some of them, let's see. He moved his blob up and forward first. I moved up and got onto the crater. And then he moved So the stairway kind of was a choke point. So here's what happened. Some of his warband got a little spread out. It was a blob, but it got spread out. Some of his guys got up on top of the platform, past the stairs, but half of his warband was still back on the stairs. So what he did was he charged my vampire with the 3 available up front guys that could. All but one of them, or I'm sorry, 4 guys, all 4 guys. 3 out of the 4 passed their fear checks. And so they all charged in, 3 of them charged in. They did not do anything, and Vivian ended up just stunning one of them, I believe. Then he moves his archers up the stairway a little bit. My zombie rat with the warp lock pistol is on the ground level still, and he's just advancing up a little bit to try to be able to shoot them on that stairway. He does shoot one and I think stuns it. It does not fall, unfortunately, because I was hoping it would fall and I could charge it if it survived. But it doesn't fall. It just stays up there, stunned. My necromancer and the rifleman tried to do the same thing, and I think the rifleman actually took one of the archers out of action. The necromancer knocked one down. Also didn't fall. Shame. So, and the zombie, the cool thing about that rifle is it's pretty easy to get a kill with. Bad thing about it is obviously it's a zombie, so it's not going to get any more experience. On top of that, by the way, that particular zombie comes with a whopping 28 experience because it was his leader. So that's going to actually have a pretty big effect on my warband rating. Which I've now, at the end of this, I'm up to, I think 212, somewhere around there. So it's up there now. So anyway, the next turn, I charge in with my ghouls that are up there. My direwolf gets in, gets all the way past the combat with the vampire, past the ghouls in the middle, and charges right into an archer all the way across by the stairway. The zombies finally make it up onto the platform, but don't get into combat. The regular zombies, that is. In my combat phase, we do what we do, right? So, I think Drag took somebody out of action, and Ghoul took somebody out of action, and Vivian just stuck to death the guy that was on the ground, which happened to be his new leader, which I did not realize. Yeah, it was brutal. At that point, he took his route test and failed it, and I ended up winning. I did manage to harvest one weird stone from the crater. But other than that, there was no other weird stone, no other extra weird stone harvested from that crater. So again, the win for Vivian and her squad. She does immense work. She gets a bunch more experience. We get some weird stone, we get some money. I managed to get enough gold to end rarity rolls to now have Vivian kitted out with her Gromrel armor. So she, with her Gromrel armor and shield, is walking in with a 2+ save in close combat if she uses the shield. She never does, though. She only uses the shield to stop those pesky arrows and crossbow bolts. In combat, she's rocking a sword and an Ithamar sword. So she's real tough to kill now. And more importantly, the Gromrel armor does not come with the -1 movement penalty that heavy armor came with. Heavy armor and a shield, that is. So that means she's now charging in at 18 inches. She's also running 18 inches. So she gets there. Again, I roll another leadership advancement. So at this point, she has 2 leadership advancements and Glenn made the comment, he said, oh, well, now that she's at her racial maximum, at least when you roll it again, you'll get initiative. And sure enough, after he said that, I rolled the leadership advancement again, which you get initiative or leadership, and you roll for it. Unless one is maxed, then you get the other one. So now she's got I think it's a 6-up initiative, which is normally totally useless because climbing always fails on a 6. Diving charge always fails on a 6. Doesn't matter what your initiative is. If you roll a 6, you fail. But where a higher initiative does come into play is in the order of attacks in close combat rounds where no one strikes first. But if you recall, my path is to kill the Scion of Chaos in one-on-one combat. And that Scion of Chaos turns into a big old demon. And this demon's fast. The Chaos Marauder Warband, they all have much higher initiative than you would expect for humans. So, in fact, when I played the Marauders of Reuben, the Marauder actually struck first against my vampire because of initiative. We had both had 5 initiative, and we had to roll off, and I lost the roll off. It's a crazy thing. So, in this particular campaign, I do want more initiative. So even with my initiative 6, I'm not satisfied there. That's why I've got the Ithalmar sword, soon to be paired with another of the same material, resulting in basically an initiative of 7 in close combat. So I'm hoping I'm going to be striking first pretty much all the time. That was game 2. He did roll his post game, and his champion died. Outright died. So I went from this spell of awakening, going through every campaign that I've played. In fact, even when I was a kid, I don't know if I ever actually got the spell of awakening, but I am certain that I never actually got it to succeed and got a zombie out of it. I went from that history with the spell to getting 3 in one day. 2 games, 3 new zombies. Now his champion that I killed, her name is Creepy Jenny, which I love. And she's just a base champion, and he actually just purchased her after the game with Dan to replace some of the ranks that he lost. And so she only has a sword, which is fine. Or maybe she has a sword and a shield. Which is fine. It's just, it's so thematic. It's so cool. And they are zombies. They're technically better than, the base zombies. They do come with some experience. This one only came with 8, so it's not too big of a hit to my rating. It's not really going to give anybody else a big boost. And frankly, I'm not so worried about everybody else. I'm more so worried about Vivian getting her real strong and taking out these Scions of Chaos. That's really all I care about. Everybody else gets strong, that's fine. So I've got these 3 zombies. My warband is full out now. And it's just it's really cool to see how it's developing and how bad Vivian is turning. Luckily now with 3 technically of the leadership / initiative advancements, hopefully the next advancements that she gets will be, some skills would be nice, although sprint is the heart and soul of Vivian. But there's some others that I want. In fact, the campaign is allowing for all town criers and their rule sets to be included, all errata, all that stuff. And in one of them, I think it's Lords of Darkness, there's a vampire rule set that has some special skills, and they can turn into transmute into different animals. Like they can turn into a rat swarm. They can turn into a giant bat, a giant wolf. They can turn into a cloud, turn to mist, which is really cool because turning into mist, her movement turns to 2d6 inch movement, but anything needs a 6 to hit her and a 6 to wound her. And she can move freely. You can fly in this mist form, so you can move all over the place. It's good. It's a good defensive skill. You can change in any form in recovery phase. So you can, and when it's your recovery phase, you can decide to change into a form. Great, you're now that guy. And you can switch between that form and your normal standard form too. Your stats all change when you change into one of these forms. And it can be pretty cool. One of them's a dire wolf, so you could turn into a dire wolf, or a giant wolf rather, with 9-inch movement, which is really cool. Unless you already have sprint, then it's the same difference. In fact, well, sprint's better, I would say. No, it's the same. Don't listen to me. Or do listen to me. I don't know. Whatever. Let's see. One of the skills in that rule set, the whole reason I was getting to this, that I would like to get some skills, and I would like to get some advancements in like strength or maybe attacks again. That would be really fun to get. Toughness would be nice. Wounds would be nice. I'll take anything at this point that's at least a little combat related. I'd be very excited to have. But skills, the skill from Lords of Darkness, Town Crier, is I think it's Transfixing Gaze, and it's a skill that whenever she's in close combat, the opponent, and this is, she does this every round. The opponent has to take a leadership test or become transfixed by the vampire's gaze, meaning it cannot attack back. So, granted, I am expecting this Sign of Chaos to have a maximum leadership. I'm expecting a leadership of 10. I'm also expecting them to get an Unholy Relic, just like I have, which means they're automatically going to pass the first leadership test they have to make. It's the easiest 20 or 25 gold or whatever it is that you'll spend, especially as an undead player, because that vampire, she's got a pretty good leadership, but you bottle pretty easily as an undead player. If you've got a handful of zombies and dregs, you got some chaff that can make you take some early route tests. You might not want to take, because they're still going to win the game, type of thing. The Unholy Relic, reroll that, automatically pass that first failed initiative test is great. Also, it's even better for Garlic. At some point, these guys are going to figure out, oh yeah, I need to spend 1 gold for each person in my warband each hero in my warband to get them some garlic, so Drew can stop charging you that vampire. The Unholy Relic will work for that as well. So am I now a racial maximum 10 leadership. That'll help generally. So I'm not expecting Transfixing Gaze to be a big deal in combat with this Sign of Chaos, but there's a good chance that we will end up in close combat for a number of rounds. I'm going to have 2 swords with parry, re-rolling that failed parry, and with the campaign points upgrade, I end up I can parry when I roll equal to or higher than the opponent's roll. So I'm going to have a great time parrying. I'm going to have great armor. I assume the same thing is going to be on the other side. We both got multiple wounds. So this combat's going to go for a long time. There's a chance that out of every one of these turns, he's going to roll a 6 and a 5 or boxcars when he takes that leadership test. And then suddenly he's not going to be able to strike back. I assume he's not going to be able to parry. And that might be a good opportunity to shift any momentum that's going on in that close combat. So I'm really eyeing that skill. That said, there are also some other skills that Glenn has included and incorporated in this campaign set from the Town Criers and errata, which I didn't know about until this campaign day, and I actually read them up today for the first time. And there are some interesting ones in there. In fact, there's one called Strategist or Tactician or something along those lines, and it allows the leader to reposition, or allows, if your leader has this skill, it allows you to reposition the members of your warband after everyone has deployed. That is huge for me, because if I don't deploy second, I don't necessarily, I mean, the opponent's going to take every opportunity to avoid my vampire and my direwolf, their charge range. They're going to sit up on the opposite sides. That's why I sometimes have my wolf and my vampire far apart. Sometimes I run them as a pair to keep up with each other. But at this point, my vampire is so beefy, she doesn't necessarily need a friend. But being able to redeploy would be huge for me, because then I could just focus everything on the weak side of my opponent's flank if they have one, or if I'm focused on objectives and it turns out I'm not going to really be able to get those objectives, or he's got too much of a defense on it, I can shift those around. That's really huge. The other aspect of this skill is it not only allows you to redistribute and reposition your units, it increases your deployment zone an additional 4 inches. So I deploy 12 inches up. That's huge. That means that on turn 1, I've got a huge advantage. I can reach out on a 36-inch board. That's basically putting my anything within 30 inches, anything deployed within 30 inches of my deployment zone is potentially going to be under attack turn 1, my first charge. That's pretty crazy. I kind of think that's a little too strong, personally. So I'm not going to take it, but I'm gonna kind of think I wish I could let myself do it, because that's really strong. There's some other cool ones in there too in academics, including one that's like academic studies, sorcerer's training, something like that, and it allows your magic user to either reduce the difficulty of one spell by 1 or select the next spell that they earn, as opposed to having to pick it randomly. I've got the 2 big spells that I really like. Although, and I did get another spell with the Necromancer after this game, by the way, which was Lifesteal, which is really a really cool spell, but it's tough to get off. First of all, it's only got a 6-inch range. I really don't want my Necromancer 6 inches away from anybody, but as long as I keep a nice wall of meat in front of her, dead or alive, I should be able to keep him safe enough to be able to try to get it off once in a while. The other problem with it, though, is difficulty 10. So I got to roll double 5s, boxcars, or 5 and 6. It's really tough to get that one to go off. But it's good to get at this point in the campaign, because hopefully my Necromancer will start to gain some additional levels here. And at that point I can get, the sorcery skill, which adds 1 to all my rolls. I can also get this other skill, which will reduce the difficulty of one spell in particular, to make this a more possible roll. I mean, an 8 up is much better than a 10 up. I'm okay getting an 8 up once in a while. So yeah, that's where I'm sitting. That's where I'm sitting currently. Dan brought the Chaos Marauders. He did really well. I think he won 2 out of his 3 games. He didn't really lose anything, and he's getting pretty strong too, pretty quickly. So I'm excited to see that. I was really disappointed. Ruben's Marauders are the biggest cowards. I've told him this. We've made this abundantly clear. He's made it abundantly clear. They are cowards of chaos, not marauders of chaos. And that's fine. He's comfortable with that. I'm comfortable with that. That's on him. But instead of challenging me, which is my only shot at not fighting Maverick, I told him, if I can't fight Ruben, then you can fight me. And Ruben would not challenge me, and ended up fighting one of the new players who brought Lizardmen. Get a lot of skinks on the board. And so I felt kind of like, okay, Ruben's taking a little bit of an easy one here, which forced me to take a bit of an easy one with Maverick's wounded and battered Reichlanders. I did not want to do that. I would much rather fight somebody, at least a little closer on par, but Ruben's scared, and that's totally reasonable thing to be, but he's not going to be able to avoid me forever, Ruben. Vivian's coming. She's coming for your leader. Oh, she's ready. Oh, I can't wait. Very excited. Very excited for that prospect. I forgot in game 2, I got a Mordheim map, which ended up being, I think, the 2nd level. So like it's a vague map, and I got to re-roll one of my dice. And I ended up getting 3 units of superior black powder, which is, I think, rare 11 and 30 gold. So, if I decide to just sell it outright, I can get 45 out of it. That's pretty good. And then one of the other games, I found a blunderbuss. I got that going for me. So that's something that is a really cool weapon. I think it's a 12-inch range, and it's a template. So it's 12 inches forward, maybe 12, maybe 10, maybe 9, somewhere in that range, and a 1-inch wide, like, blast template, basically. So clear ruler is what people use for it. And it's a one-shot deal, but it's an automatic hit. Anything that's under the blast, strength 3, no AP, I don't believe. Really fun, characterful weapon. Glenn is using one of his war bands as a stand-in from time to time when needed. And it's a gunnery school gnome. He's got a couple of blunderbusses, and they're just really fun. Unfortunately, I cannot use it. I don't have access to shooting skills, and that means that means I can't learn to use ranged weapons that are not on my warband's list, and naturally, blunderbusses are not on the undead warband list. So it's just another thing for me to, I guess, maybe sell, try to get some gold out of it. I know Zane is rolling with the merchant caravan, so I'm going to talk to him. Maybe there's a deal to be made here. I don't know. I know that some people appreciate the superior black powder. It adds +1 strength to your black powder weapons. I haven't sold it yet because I technically do now have 2 black powder weapons with the warp lock weapons. And if I'm going up against somebody really tough, I could opt to load those in there for that strength 6 shot. Another thing about these zombies that I'm going to have to remember next time I use them is that I have been using them at a 4-inch move, like regular zombies. And I've decided to adjust accordingly my rule on saying audibly the word brains whenever you move a zombie. Because these particular zombies are rat engineers, and one of them has the tinker skill. So when they move forward, they say gears. And that helps differentiate them also from my opponents. They know which ones are the Skaven engineers with the guns versus the regular old peasantry with the no brains. Or brains in the case of brains. So yeah, that's where I'm at. Really excited to see the next round. I'm eager to get back. I know a bunch of the Tampa guys are not going to be able to make it, so I'm gonna really try to get some games together at our local gaming store now that we've got myself, Dan, Zane, and Josh playing, and Maverick, since he lives only an hour away, is down to come over and game with us for a day or something like that. So that's 5, and I know there's a handful of local guys that want to play too. We could have a decent day of it with 3 games and have a lot of fun. So that's what we're gonna shoot for. I think that's that. I'm gonna do this again next time.